In Stars and Time is the latest of what feels like a renaissance of RPG Maker games. Though I'm sure they never really died down, it's just that a lot are getting publishers now, and day one Switch releases. The grayscale palette and cartoony designs breathe familiarity into it. You start at the climax of your journey with all party members at level 45, enjoying a day of rest before the final day of your journey in which they must charge through the House of Change to defeat the king who has frozen swaths of the country and its inhabitants in time. You play as Cypherin, companion to the main hero Mirabelle, who on her travels to seek help has found you, Isabeau, a tough fighter and fellow pun lover, Odile, a intellectual older woman, as well as the excellent cooking prodigy Bonnie. Your job is to lead the party and look for traps, at which you immediately fail and die. But then you wake up the day before and everyone repeats what they had said and done in the past. It soon becomes apparent that you are stuck in a time loop that resets each time you die, which is rather a thing to be thankful for. When you progress to another floor, you can't walk back, and Cypherin isn't very good at their job, often failing to notice hidden items, or the player choosing the incorrect path. If you do manage to reach a point of no return, a nice little X mark will appear to let you know. Another important feature is the ability to loop forward or even backwards to certain points. Defeating the house's monsters, known as sadnesses, will give you memory shards which are spent to do so. If you don't want to repeat the time in the town of Dormont or the first floor, you don't have to. Going backward will not require you to spend those points. There's also a save point before reaching the next floor, so looping to that spot will require more shards, but ensure all the locked doors are opened already. I did eventually run out of them despite having a mile-high stack from some unnecessary grinding, but that was largely because I made some mistakes and missed things myself. Besides that, there's an easy way to take care of yourself thanks to the frozen tears scattered around the house. Of course, before I forget to mention, you can fast forward through any previously seen dialogue, but towards the very end there were a few conversations that didn't seem to flag as previously read, which was a bit annoying. The combat is turn-based, following a literal rock-paper-scissors system of attack types, with the status effects focusing on speed, attack and defense, well, except being frozen in time, but Mirabelle can help with that. The enemy's type can be identifiable either by how effective their attacks are on particular members, but usually by their design, as most have hands in the position required to deal their kind of attack. Some enemy designs are quite fun, such as one sadness holding another one in his hands, so you can't attack the little guy until you've gone through his friend first. Two of your party are scissors type, one rock and one paper. Luckily, Mirabelle has one paper skill at her disposal, and Odile has a skill for each type. These skills operate on a turn basis, meaning after using them you'll have to wait a certain number of turns again. A jackpot attack can be accessed if you use the same attack type 5 times in a row, which looks a little bit like an all-out attack from the Persona games, but with the bonus of healing and reviving party members. Your bonus party member, Bonnie, acts as support, coming to give buffs, attempt to deal damage, or provide snacks to heal the team, though they rarely did the latter for me. When it comes to the loops, any equipment you find or experience Sif gains stays, whereas the other party members will reset or are saved at certain points for when you loop back to them. For example, if I loop to the second floor, my other party members would be sitting at about level 47 or so from the start, but a level or two higher if I loop to when all the doors were unlocked. This eliminates the need for too much grinding, as it's semi-pointless. Eventually I did realise that you can just run away from battles, which was good because they're quite fast and hard to avoid when through these tight corridors. New skills will be learned with levels. Thankfully, upon learning a skill, you gain the memory of it and can equip it to said party member, so that they can use said skill earlier than they have actually earned it. There are many other memories to equip which are pretty much accessories, as some might make Odile's use of tonics more efficient, be a simple stat increase, or get you more shards from enemies. Like any good RPG Maker game, there are also some side quests you can complete to net your rewards, which due to the nature of how you manage to hold items, don't bear any repeats. The game is grayscale, with it being a small part of the story that the characters can't actually see colour. While the UI is in sharp black and white, the screen is a bit smaller, featuring a starry sky background as the border. It's a comforting appearance and pretty easy on the eyes. The characters themselves are cute, represented by sprites of the main world, but with portrait art, occasional larger pictures for certain scenes, and expressions of their faces on the battle screen. Though I'm sure the lack of noses might be irritating to some, the only character I thought it looked bad on was Isabeau. My husband definitely didn't like the art style, saying it was kind of Cal Arts, and I'm like, yeah, I can kind of see that sort of Tumblr-esque era look a bit, but I don't mind it. Overall, the presentation isn't super flash, but looks just right and feels comforting. That said, the cut-ins for their fancy attacks do look a little bit swish. The music, I have to be honest, I had the volume down most of the time. Not because the music was bad or anything. I know a few of the tracks I'll want to listen to once the game and thus soundtrack is out. From what I've heard, there's a nice bit of electronic, maybe chiptune-esque tracks, but everything matches the mood, whether it's lighthearted or not. The boss theme is one of the best, of course. Of course. If the time looping sounds annoying, it isn't. Well, at first, since you're making your way through, finding what you need and trying to defeat the king. But it does become apparent later on that things aren't as simple as that, and the game starts to drag on just a bit too long, and well, I could applaud it for being some kind of meta-narrative as I started to really
feel like Spider-Man.
Desperately trying different things, picking up side quests and trying to do a perfect run. It does become less fun when I so dearly wanted to see the end. It's possibly a good idea later in the game to take breaks lest you become frenetic, but then you'll have a hard time getting around if you don't remember where things are, so perhaps not. My playthrough took me just over 20 hours, although I did make some mistakes and definitely grinded more than I needed to, since the main opponent wasn't really that tough. I felt that, in the end, it was worth the journey, even if I felt a bit exhausted. In Stars and Time is full of sweet moments between these characters who have been friends for but a short while, as you come to get to know them more and they share funny interactions or stories while exploring the house. Though it's not superbly groundbreaking or surprising when all is said and done, the story has just enough layers for it to be interesting, touching on quite a few topics I won't spoil. I even had my own theories as I went on, which all were proven wrong. If you like LGBT etc representation, that exists in regards to the characters, but it's hardly relevant to the plot, as it's not really anything to do with the wider elements of the story, but it does take place in a world without the usual hang-ups. In Stars and Time fits into the category of a game I don't think I'll play possibly ever again. And not in a bad way, but when it comes to narrative-heavy games, I often think any repeats are some decades away from me, and this one intertwines it so much with a gameplay experience that I will remember it. I've actually changed my mind, and I'm giving In Stars and Time an 8 out of 10. Yes, it can get grating, and the journey might not be compelling to some, but I really liked it overall, and do find it to be a standout over other indie RPGs I've played this year. But if you are interested, there is still a demo up on Steam. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you again very soon. Bye!
You must break the pattern today, or the loop will repeat tomorrow.